Hello friends and neighbors, I think I need to clear up a few things about my identity. You knew me once as Amish Dumbledore, back when I wore a really horrible fake beard. When I transported myself away along with the troll commons, I transformed into my newer and better wizard form. This wizard form wears a much more awesome hat, and more importantly, no longer has to wear that horrible fake beard. And that is me. For all intents and purposes, I'm Amish Dumbledore, but I would rather not be known as Amish Dumbledore because that name is kind of long and clunky, and Haberdasher likes to shorten it to Ami, which sounds a lot like Amy, which is a girl I really liked in high school, and that just gets awkward. So instead, I'm going to be known as Arcana the Wizard. And I review games, because no one else does on this channel, and I figured it was high time. Nothing. Now, when I was a child, I didn't actually have a video game console. I played all of my games on the PC, but I've been feeling a little nostalgic towards them lately, and so I thought it was time to review a few of them. I really don't need to hold the staff anymore, I'm going to put it down. So I'm going to start off this series with a game that was one of my absolute favorites growing up, Myst. Myst was designed by Rand and Robin Miller. It came out in the early 90s on CD-ROM, and at the time, it was a pretty big deal. At least I remember it being a big deal. It was a game that you hadn't really seen for the PC before. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. You point and click to where you want to go, you point and click to manipulate objects and open books and all sorts of things like that. And the design of the game at the time looked pretty good. Like, it looked like you were actually in the place where you were supposed to be. I mean, obviously by today's standards it looks pretty quaint and old-fashioned, and a lot of games have that sort of first-person feel to them, but at the time, there weren't a lot of games like this. But what's most interesting about the game of Myst is that there's really no one to tell you what you are supposed to be doing. There's no one to give you your objective. You just find yourself on this island of Myst, and all you can do is explore. The only thing you have to go on is an opening narration that is really more cryptic than anything, especially when you don't have context for it. And you know that you arrived on this island because you picked up a book that had the word Myst on it, you opened it, you found a moving picture inside, and when you put your hand on the moving picture, you found yourself here, with no way to get back to where you were, and no idea how you got there, and no idea what to do. The island is completely deserted, but there are clues left behind that will tell you, give you kind of an idea of who was here and what happened. Now, it's hard to talk about the gameplay too extensively without giving a lot of stuff away, because you discover the story as you progress through the game. But basically, the island was once inhabited by a man named Atris, his wife, and his two sons, Cirrus and Achenar. Something disastrous happened, Atris and his wife have disappeared, and Cirrus and Achenar have become trapped in these two books that you find in the library. And presumably the only way to get them out of those books is to give them pages of the same color as their books, blue and red. Now, what you discover about this world that you have entered is that books that lead to other worlds, like the first book that you found that led you to Myst, are commonplace, and there used to be a lot of them on this island, but most of them have been destroyed. 4 of the books that lead to other worlds remain, and you have to find these 4 books, go to these 4 worlds, and find blue and red pages so that you can learn more and more about Cirrus and Achenar and what happened, and you can eventually figure out which one of them you should free from their prison. Confused yet? The other 4 ages are called Channelwood, Stoneship, Mechanical, and Selenic. I think I got all those right. And like the Island of Myst itself, each of them has their own puzzles to solve. The game of Myst is essentially a game of puzzles. There's not really any action to speak of or anything like that. It's just you having to figure out the puzzles to progress through the game. And there's no way for you to lose until you get to the very end of the game and have to decide who you're going to free from the prison. Up until then, the only way to really lose the game is just to stop playing. So the game obviously contains a very complex narrative, and that, more than anything, is what I really, really like about it. I tend to prefer games that have stories behind them, that have very interesting and complicated stories behind them. You might remember a few years ago I reviewed a book called Myst, the Book of Atris, which is based on the same story that this game is based on. It actually provides some backstory for this game, as well as the game's sequel, Riven, which I'll probably review at another time. But what I like about this game is that as you progress through the game, you get to learn more and more of the story. As you go to each of the ages to find the blue and red pages, you invariably find yourself in the places where Cirrus and Achenar lived, and you learn more about them, what kind of people they were, and what exactly happened on this island. You also learn more about Atris and the art of writing linking books to ages, which is basically what Atris does. You don't learn absolutely everything about Atris. You learn more about Atris and his backstory by reading Myst, the Book of Atris, and also by playing the game Riven. And you don't learn absolutely everything about Cirrus and Achenar. There are still a lot of unanswered questions, and a lot of it is left ambiguous. And even when you finish the game of Myst, even when you get to the end of it, you still aren't done. Like, it's indicated that there's more for you to do, which will be covered in the next game, and you don't actually get off the island of Myst. You are still on this island, and you're presumably going to be here until you play the next game. And the next game is when you get some closure, and I'll talk more about that when I review that game. But all in all, this is a pretty good game. Sadly, it doesn't work on a lot of modern computers nowadays, and they never really updated it because the company that made it really doesn't exist anymore. But what I loved about this game is what makes me feel nostalgic for it now. I love the story behind it, I love the worlds that you get to go to, I love the puzzles, and I just love playing your way through the game and finding new things every time you go into this world. If you can find a version of this game that you can actually get to work on your computer, or even better if you can find a version of real Myst, which actually makes it look more like a first-person game, I would definitely recommend it. On the gaming-specific worth meter, I would give this a worth multiple playthroughs. The gaming-specific worth meter was actually designed by Coded Lock Films, so thanks for that, Jesse. And until next time, be sure to tell me what you think of the game reviews and the new series, and I will be seeing you later. God damn it. Internetception.
Criminal brain.